We recently got some information from the man himself, Todd Howard. He spoke with IGN in an interview and later followed that up with an AMA. There was a lot that was discussed, ranging from Skyrim to Starfield and Fallout. Since there is so much to go over, let's get right to it.
It's kind of surreal, yes. Right? That we're talking about a game we made 10 years ago still. So, I mean, for me and everybody here, it's still like, we can't believe it either.
It's getting released again. Again, that's the running gag, but people keep playing it, people keep loving it. And that's, I want to start is just kind of, how do you feel about Skyrim in hindsight? It's because a lot of developers that I talk to, they tend to, like, after something comes out, like we, the media and the fans might think, this is great, we love it. But a lot of developers, as seems to be their nature, seem to, at least initially, only be able to see the flaws. Like, oh, well, there's this thing and there's this thing. But now, with 10 years of hindsight, I'm kind of curious how you feel about that game in general.
Look, we love it. We always loved it. When you're making a game, for us, it takes 4 or 5 years, sometimes a little longer. You get kind of, I don't want to say sick of it. You get numb to what's good about it because you're dealing with getting it working and trying to make it as good as you can.
Right.
And then when you get some space away from it, you can really embrace it for what it is. And we just feel incredibly kind of blessed to still have it in our lives.
Yeah.
And it's taken on this, other life with the community. And, obviously we're still doing some things with it, but it's this blessing that we have. And we were talking in the studio the other day and what it means to all of us. And there's people, obviously, there are a lot of people here who made that game. And then there are another group that worked on various different versions of it. But then the new people that have come on in the last few years, it's one of the reasons they wanted to join us.
Yeah.
And now they're a part of Bethesda. And so I think it will really be a part of us kind of forever. And it's something that we really, really feel blessed about. And it's incredibly special to still have it be a thing played by millions and millions of people every month, still one of our top sellers, and it's kind of hard to believe.
It was interesting to hear Todd talk about how he feels about Skyrim and the process that Bethesda goes through. He explained why there are such long breaks between games. This is because they get to a point where they're tired of working on the same game. Not that they stop liking it, more that things tend to get stale. Think of it like writer's block. If you are writing a story and you're in a groove, things are clicking along and going great. Then you hit a wall. Nothing seems to be right. You just end up getting frustrated. The best thing that you can do is stop. Focus on something else for a while, and then come back to it when you're refreshed and more focused again. I think that is what Todd is saying here. That is why they tend to go from one game to another, and sometimes things overlap. Sometimes there are several projects being worked on at the same time.
Oblivion we were making that as they were making the Xbox 360, so the technology jump was very extreme. It's a very difficult project. And then we kind of overlap a little bit, and we went into Fallout 3. And so you talked about how we feel about the previous game. For us, it's always the previous game. We're usually going from a Fallout into a Fallout between Elder Scrolls.
Well, now you do. Didn't used to be the case. Yeah.
Right. So we went from Oblivion into Fallout 3 and then Fallout 3 into Skyrim.
Right.
But we're on the tail end of kind of that technology window with the 360. And the 360 was kind of our lead platform for Skyrim. But by then, we had this tech base that was very, very solid, where we felt, okay, we can really push it now. We're not starting from zero.
Right.
And I think Skyrim really benefits from that when you go back to 2011 and see it on the 360. And obviously, we always done PC stuff. But that really gave us a foothold to really push some things in what we wanted to do with the game.
With Skyrim, they started moving into some newer technology, and as such, the game engine needed some major work. These improvements gave them the ability to do more with their games.
I don't. Once in a while, I'll play a game and I'll see something that is a little bit clearer in terms of, okay, that's how we did that. we're a series that, and it can be something minor. I have a pet peeve in games, like and everyone here knows, I don't like mini maps on the screen. So a weird thing where I saw people going to the rose line style compass like at the top.
Yeah.
You know, so something like that you see. I like to play games with mini maps. I just don't like the mini maps because I'm playing the mini map when I play a game.
Yeah,
I stare at it
happens,
and I
right?
drive around. But there are other things too with skill systems or certain flows that you can see in other games. But look, that's one of the things that we enjoy. So I don't dwell on it too much, just once in a while. I think the tone of the game is really, really strong. There's a lot of fantasy out there, and it's hard to sort of you see it and you go, oh, that's Skyrim. So we got that right. The other thing is that no matter who you are, if you like video games and you want to spend a lot of time with one, there's something for you in it. There's a million ways to play it, and the game really lets you express yourself in it. And I think it's what's great about video games.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can say I think Skyrim does that really well, but I think that's what video games do really well, and the ones that we really enjoy and that we try to make, that there's a space that the creators have made, and then when you come into it, you are making it better. You're giving yourself to it. And then when you put it down, you have different emotions than you do when you're playing a game where a creator kind of drags you along.
Yeah. That
you feel something about yourself. You think about it when you go to bed. You come back into it. When you accomplish something, you feel like, look what I did today. And that's a real emotion. And I think that's what makes it so powerful. There are a number of parts of it where we don't go deep enough, where it's a veneer in terms of its interactivity.
Yeah.
Look, you can say that about anything, but I think when we think about games and what we would want to do going forward, it's, okay, whatever that system is, how deep can we make it? The other part is the way the AI and the NPCs really react to you. It's something that I think we still have a long way to go with, but those are probably the main ones.
Todd explained how he doesn't like mini-maps on the screen and mentioned some of the things that he likes about Skyrim. He detailed the fact that you can play the game any way you want and how powerful that is for us as players. He also talked about the things he didn't like, one thing in particular being the AI. I have to agree with Todd here. The AI does need a lot of work.
Yeah, it's something that we've wanted to do kind of for a long time. And we have a group that pulled it off during the pandemic with the London Symphony Orchestra, which I always associate with these scores and movies that I've always loved. And seeing that and hearing it back, I find music is a very particular like time travel device.
Yeah.
Where it takes you back to those moments. And Skyrim's music has always been a part of its identity. We start with music. Usually the game we do concept art, we do interface, we do music.
That's interesting.
So even Starfield, one of the first things we did was the music. And it sets, as you're drawing things and seeing it on the screen, you put it to the music, it gives you more of a complete feeling of this is the tone of the game. So Skyrim's music was one of the first things that we did.
Todd spoke about the development process. He said that there are a few things that they start out with: concept art, interface, and music. I think this is very telling. To learn that the music is the first thing they work on is amazing. This is why Bethesda games stand out above the rest. They have a completely different approach. Starting with the music does set the tone for the game. For developers, hearing the music can inspire the design, story, and even characters. Think about it like this. If you were to watch Star Wars without the background music, the movie would not have been very popular at all. But the musical score brings it to life. This is the part that really makes Bethesda games shine.
Well, there's a number I like. On the PC, the UI one is really, really good. There's the one this is going to sound stupid. There's one I like where someone added fast travel markers when you bought a house. And it's something that should really take like an hour. It's one of those things you think, why didn't we do that? But there's so many that I like the ones that are more systemic. Now it's sort of it's going to sound like a biased pick, but the stuff we did with Creation Club and working with those creators, the survival mode, fishing, I really love when our developers here are working with people in the community and getting it out there. So I think those have been particularly impactful in the game.
Have you ended up hiring any of those people?
As a matter of fact, yes.
Yeah, I figured
yes, a good number of them.
It's like, why wouldn't you, right? Like,
look, it's something
a lot of talent out there.
There's a lot of talent out there, something we're really passionate about. When you think about the legacy of our games, you know, one of the reasons we're sitting here 10 years later is because of our modding community.
Yeah.
Right? And what they've done with the game. So even though we did all the stuff and you kind of make it your own, you open up this menu and then there's this even larger list of things. Like, okay, how do you want to customize it? What do you want to do? And I think that's fundamental to what we want to do with games where creators can do that. And I think us being active in trying to make it more than a hobby for them, where they can make it their career, I think is really, really good and something that we're going to continue to do. But obviously the success of the game, what it's meant to a lot of people who play games or got them through tough times. We do things with the Make-A-Wish Foundation when people want to come here and see what we do. So it's not Skyrim specific. It's more, I do feel a lot of pride, and I see it in the studio when you see your work really give so many people a lot of joy, and it's not just us goofing off making fantasy worlds, right? I do think the work, you know, it has importance. I think entertainment is important to people's lives, and so that gives you a lot of pride in what you've been able to do with it and what you want to do in the future.
Todd spoke about mods and how he feels about them. We all know that mods are the lifeblood of Bethesda games. He also made it clear that he supports the modding community and how much it means to him how Bethesda games have helped people in some way, whether it is some charity or just a personal note.
It's important to us. We've kind of avoided doing like direct sequels, which is why also they take so long, and that each of them does have its own identity. And there's something about all of them that we love. When someone says, it's usually the first one they play is their favorite. So like, you guys blew it after Morrowind, you simplified it. Like, and then if you played Oblivion, like, it was so much better than Skyrim. And we're okay with that. We say, like, doesn't that upset you? It's like, we made those games too. It's always the last one, right? So Skyrim, I think, particularly from, you know, a game flow perspective, a game in your hands that still feels really, really good today. It's probably my favorite as we sit here. But there's things about, say, you know, I think a lot of the quests in Oblivion is some of our best questing. In Morrowind, I like the tone of the world where there are parts of it that are a lot stranger, where you feel a bit uncomfortable in it. And I think you can use that to your advantage, which is a little bit more mysterious. I love the elegance. We'll go back. I love the elegance of Arena, the very first game. If you play it, it's such a simple game. It knows exactly, it's not a simple game, but there's elegance in its design, character system, the flow of it. So I think they each have something that's great about them. For me, when I look at franchises, is it vibrant? Okay, Skyrim still is. Elder Scrolls Online is huge. It's one of the biggest online games in the world, and that's part of our company, even though our studio isn't developing it. We work with them. I think they've done an absolutely phenomenal job. So when I look at the Elder Scrolls as a franchise, you know, is it healthy? Is it doing well? Yes, 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 yes. Would you plan to have the kind of gap we're having between Skyrim and the follow-up? I can't say that's a good thing, right? I wish I could wave a wand and the game that we want to make and we have in our head, we're starting things on, just came out. Absolutely. But there's other things we want to do, right? Obviously, Fallout 4 was a huge success. We spent a lot of time on that. We wanted to, you know, go into online with Fallout 76. We felt doing something like Starfield, something we wanted to do something else for a long time and play in a new universe. It's kind of like, well, if not now, I'm going back in time. We started right after Fallout 4, so 2015, end of it. If not now, when? And I felt like the when, if we didn't do it then, the when could be never. And so we felt pretty good with where Elder Scrolls was as a franchise, particularly with Elder Scrolls Online, that, hey, now's the time we can do Starfield. You know, that being said, everything takes longer than we would like as well. but we want to make sure we get it right. And, you know, hopefully Elder Scrolls 6, you don't want to say like, hey, that's worth that kind of weight, but that it does stand up to the series as it has been in a really big, impactful way for when it comes out.
He spoke about how each game they make is different, and that they have avoided making direct sequels. He prefers to make each game separate because each one has its own story, even if it is in the same world. He also mentioned the Elder Scrolls 6. He mentioned how he is disappointed with the large gap between games, but the decision to make Starfield was more of an in-the-moment decision to start on that. When Todd said, "If not now, then when?" and that when would have been never, that was very telling. Starfield is a new IP, and they are starting from scratch with that game, including the engine. That said, they are indeed still doing some work on the Elder Scrolls 6.
It would seem like just working on one Elder Scrolls game after the next might get creatively exhausting. And then you guys got the Fallout IP and were able to alternate. And it would seem like that would be creatively healthy for the team for both games,
right,
to go back and forth. And now with what will be such a big gap between Elder Scrolls 5 and Elder Scrolls 6 is, you know, will there be kind of a little extra creative rejuvenation there when you guys really dive fully back in?
Well, our games take so long, and we do have Fallout as well, so that does keep the creative juices flowing. To your point, though, even for us, it had been so long. And we are doing some work that you do feel, it feels like there's an extra spark, that like we miss it as well, and the things we want to do with it feel very, very fresh. But I could say that about Starfield is all new.
Right.
But it was so new that you had no basis. You're kind of starting from scratch. And that's also had its own challenges. You know, what does a spaceship look like? We spent forever on that till we felt we really got it where, hey, this feels unique. This feels like this game. When you go into a franchise, a sequel, so to say, you have that basis of what you've done before, how people reacted to it. And then, but you still, for us, I like to, you know, wipe the slate clean and say, okay, what does it mean to be a fantasy role-playing game now? The kind of games we want to do, we're going to step into a virtual world. What does that mean? Don't think about making a sequel.
Right.
Start fresh. And that's a great kind of exercise for all of us. Really, really energizing.
Well, I guess what about Fallout while we're talking about it? Because that almost feels like, you know, you've got Starfield, you have a release date that's in, I'm going to call it pencil on the calendar. You've penciled it right now. I don't think no game release dates get written in ink anymore until like they've...
Yeah, we wrote it pretty hard in that trailer. So.
Well, I want to ask you about that in a minute, but...
that felt like some ink, but yeah.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second.
Sure.
But then you've seemingly publicly committed to Elder Scrolls 6 being the thing after Starfield. Sure. So does Fallout just go to the back of the line? As far as mainline, you know, yes, there's 76, but as far as the mainline Fallouts,
right,
is that going to the back of the line, or is that a thing where you've now got an entire Xbox family at your back and people
Sure.
like In Exile and Obsidian? And is there a scenario where you hand Fallout off?
I don't see, look, Fallout's really part of our DNA here.
Yeah.
We've worked with other people from time to time. I can't say what's going to happen. You know, we have a one-pager on Fallout 5, what we want to do. Again, if I could wave my hand and say, have
Right.
that out. You know, I'd like to find a way to accelerate what we do. But I can't really say today or commit to anything what's going to happen when, other than, hey, our cadence is Starfield and then Elder Scrolls 6.
Because you guys have always been, BGS is, your team is it one team, or is there more than one, like,
I like to view
team?
it as one big team, and then we have groups that focus on one game. So you could look at the Fallout 76 team, mostly based in Austin right now, and that's a full team that you would put on a game, but they work on other things. And a lot of people here in Rockville worked on 76 and Montreal and Dallas as well. And so we've always sort of done it that way so that we can move people between projects, And everybody knows, like everybody knows they're gonna work on Elder Scrolls 6 in some fashion. And I think that's really, really good for the health of the studio and the games themselves. We're able to bring expertise onto it at the right times, not burn people out, such.
Todd said the timetable is pretty much set in stone for Starfield's release. He also made it very clear that Fallout is staying within the Bethesda umbrella. This should put to bed any further discussion of any other company making a Fallout game. That said, he did say that the cadence is Starfield, The Elder Scrolls 6, and then Fallout 5. As far as where Fallout 5 is in the production schedule, there is currently a one-pager on it, which most likely contains a basic overview of the game concept.
But is it fair to say then that Todd Howard's team that is responsible for Elder Scrolls, mainline Fallout, and Starfield works on mostly like one game at a time?
We're focused on one at a time.
Yeah.
We tend to, pre-production for me, I mean, I like it to be like 2 years. So you might have a small group on it and do something and then say, let's pause, let's come back. I think that makes a difference what we're doing. When we're really going full bore, where most of the studio is on something, that can be anywhere from 12 months to 24 months. But it's true the way you said it, that we're going to focus on that. There's more overlap, I think, than do a game, stop, do a game.
So Starfield is written in ink for November 11th, 2022, per your words, which seemingly would indicate that it's in pretty good shape as far as...
We have our challenges. I can't sit here and say... it's a very, very ambitious game.
Yeah.
Look, we were, confident about the date when we put that out there. But our main focus is just making the best game that we possibly can. And it's a very, very ambitious game. And we've been through this a number of times. Skyrim. So it's been a huge jump. It's probably our biggest ever. I could say Morrowind to Oblivion. That had been our biggest. This now feels bigger to us. And we felt it was time, and we could really take advantage of the new systems, redoing the renderer and the basic underlying guts of the engine itself.
Yeah.
And that, the results on the screen we're very, very happy with. It's taking us longer, as always, than we would like, particularly during the pandemic, to put those parts together. And whenever you do an engine overhaul, we're still making data, right? And so we're still doing a lot of art and design and levels and spaces and things like that. And then the engine is changing, and figuring out when those sync up is one of the great challenges that all game developers deal with. So it depends on the game. I think for our games, I'm more of a 30 frames a second fidelity person. If I'm playing like a Forza or something, or a sports game where I can really, I think it matters for what I'm experiencing, I prefer 60. But for our style game, I honestly feel 30 feels great, and I'd rather have all the little bits and shiny pixels and be able to pick up the cups, and I like that level of immersion. But that doesn't mean that that's for everybody.
Todd spoke again about the development process, but this time he focused more on the engine. He said that things have taken more time than he would have liked, but at the same time, the development of the game is still being worked on. He also mentioned how he prefers to play his games.
No, we're at a state where we can play the whole game. Yeah. But again, there's so much to do. It's a very, very ambitious game, and we're not going to let off the gas there. And given how the world's gone, it's hard to project exactly what's going to happen when. And we honestly we do our best. Yeah. And it's been, look, in the grand scheme of the world, we have it great. But creatively getting together and making those creative decisions and looking at a game together has definitely been challenging for all game developers during this time. And you see that. We're a little bit fortunate that, the leads on the project and a lot of our staff have worked together for so long that our ability to do that, whether we're sitting at home, and we have other studios. We'd always kind of done remote work where we're talking to somebody in Montreal or Texas. And so those things have worked out really, really, really well for us. For us, it's really, is the work show on the screen? And it really, really is. So
the band has been together for a while, right? To come back to that. Yeah. So
we have that resilience in dealing with unknowns. We've dealt with it really on every game. I think it's part of our DNA, right? So those things that we like, being able to touch the world and, what are you looting from people and how do the factions. So I think there is more Skyrim in terms of game structure in Starfield. Now that you mention it, the way the factions work, the skill system is really, 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 really like the skill system in Starfield. And it borrows a bit from things we've done in Fallout and Elder Scrolls. So I think this is part of our DNA. You're going to see those hallmarks in kind of anything we do that is, as you say, kind of a mainline Bethesda game. I can give you sort of the background of it. First, when I executive produce things, that's a game that I'm kind of checking in on. Right? It's not a daily thing. It might be once a week. It might be once a month, depending on the state of the game. And then, so there's a number of things I kind of executive produce. And then if I'm directing a game, that's more of a daily activity.
Right.
The Indiana Jones game, that I love Indiana Jones. People who know me, I'm obsessed with Indiana Jones. It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark is the best thing ever put to film. No debate. And for a long time, I had met some people at Lucas way back in the day and said, oh, I have this Indiana Jones game in my head. And I got chatting with them and they're like, that's awesome. You should come out and pitch it. So I went out to Lucasfilm and I pitched this game and we almost made it. This was like 10, 12 years ago. Okay. And it kind of, obviously we were doing other things. Like we didn't really necessarily have the bandwidth. Like, hey, Todd, what team? Like, I'll figure it out. And hey, fast forward to kind of current day. And now they're part of Disney and they're starting to license. I got in a conversation with somebody there that I know, John Drake, who was a Sony, loved John. And we got to chatting and I said, I have this Indiana Jones game. And he was like, tell me more. I'm like, is this possible? And so internally, really love the work Machine Games does. Everybody knows each other really, really well. And I mentioned to them, like, hey, is this something that might interest you? There might be a possibility here.
They worked on Riddick. They've done licensed things very well before.
I think the Riddick on the original Xbox is unbelievable. It's like you look at the tech level of that game at the time before Doom, which is also it's amazing.
It's unbelievable.
It's incredible. And the work they've done on Wolfenstein and scenes and characters, I just think they're incredible developers. And so I brought up to them, like, hey, something that might interest you. And they said, absolutely. And they're good at the Nazi stuff, right? So they're making the game. I'm involved creatively. Like, hey, what's the game going to be? I had this original story, and we've worked on it sort of together. So I spent a little bit of time on it. They're running with it. They're doing an amazing job. And so I'm just happy to lend a hand and be involved.
The date for Starfield's release is pretty much set in stone, and Todd said he is confident about the date. He also said that the game is playable, but it is also very ambitious. So, is it ready now? No. It will be by the time it is released. He also spoke about the team and how well they work together. Todd also spoke about how some of the older games have impacted Starfield. He said that it draws from Skyrim and Fallout in some ways. Todd also mentioned the Indiana Jones game. He said he had developed the basis behind the game's concept. Todd talked about how the game became something that Bethesda is now making. To that end, Todd pitched it to Machine Games and they were excited to make it. So Todd basically has a hand in it, but it is not his focus.
It's surreal. We have a lot of pride. We feel very, like I said, very, very blessed to be in this position. Sort of think about how many games have been able to do that or have like a 10th anniversary even edition. And I wouldn't know the list, but I was sort of, I can't think of many. And so, it's really a testament to, I think, our fans, really. They're the ones who've kept it alive. Who keep, the memes going on the internet and talking about and putting videos up, making mods, sharing it. And it's really, even though it's not a multiplayer game, there's this social element to it that is so strong that we're just so overjoyed to kind of be a part of that and have it splash on us. So
Todd ended with how he feels about Skyrim's 10th anniversary. He also spoke about the social elements in Bethesda games. He is very happy to have been part of the game and its longevity. This takes us to the AMA that Todd hosted on Reddit. Now, there was a metric ton of questions being asked. For obvious reasons, not all questions were able to be answered. That said, he did answer quite a few of them. Some questions were not really worth covering, so I am omitting a few only because they don't hold any real relevance to this content. Are there any updates to the Elder Scrolls 6? To which Todd answered, "We know it's been a long wait. We're with you. For Father's Day this year, my son gave me a card that said, 'You're an amazing dad. But where's TES 6? Todd just can't get away from it, even at home. I love that even his own kids taunt him over how long it has been taking between games. Let's all hope that Microsoft can help get things moving faster." The next question was about Fallout 4. There's a cut underwater vault in Fallout 4, Vault 120. What was going to take place here? Todd said, "Unfortunate cut content. BioShock-style vault with a massive sentient octopus living outside." I found this to be very interesting. I agree that it was unfortunate that it was cut from the game. I would have loved to have found this vault to learn about the lore. Maybe we can get an anniversary edition for Fallout 4 where the cut content can be added in. That would be amazing. In a 2018 interview with Dean Takahashi, you mentioned that had Bethesda not acquired the rights to Fallout, you would have made an original post-apocalyptic universe. What ideas did you have for this universe, and how would it have differed from Fallout? Todd said, "It was called Apocalypse Road, and it had a great logo with a street sign." While I do wonder what this would have looked like, I am glad it never happened. There really is nothing quite like Fallout. Is the Fallout TV series still in the works? Is there any chance you can give us some details? Todd answered, "Moving ahead. Really excited to be working with Jonah, Lisa, and Amazon on it. I am glad to finally hear that the TV show is still moving forward and can't wait to see what we get from it." What happens when it just doesn't work? What's the best worst bug you've encountered? Todd said, "Long time ago, during Redguard, the lead programmer made all the buildings hop up and down after you played for 10 minutes just to mess with me. This is a brilliant prank. Reminds me of the time I made my friend's computer say a phrase every time he clicked the left mouse button. It was very funny. Well, not to him, but my friends and I all got a good laugh out of it." What sort of game would you make if you had an infinite budget and 10 years of development time? Todd answered, "We're incredibly lucky to have the support of time and budget to make the games we want. So, all of them?" I have never been a big fan of these types of questions, so Todd's answer here was perfect. I've read that a goal of Starfield is that it will be more of a hardcore RPG. Can you verify this and flesh it out in more detail? Does that mean that the character creation will be more complicated like it was in Morrowind and Oblivion? Todd said, "Really excited about what the team has done with character creation here, including choosing background, skills, etc. You will also be able to pick your pronoun, he, she, they, and we've recorded dialogue to support that choice." This is really revealing. It looks like the character creation process is going to be so much more involved. I can't wait to see what all is in store for this game. What type of mod support can we expect to see in Creation Kit 2 for Starfield? Todd said, "Our plan is to have full mod support like our previous games. Our modding community has been with us for over 20 years. We love what they do and hope to see more make a career out of it." Again, Todd makes sure to let the modding community know that this game will support mods. My guess is that they will follow a similar pattern to what they have done in the past by releasing the modding tools after launch. In the past year, we saw the rise of some impressive machine learning tools that synthesize human voice using assets from Skyrim and other Bethesda games to generate new, realistic voice lines. What do you think about this technology in general? Do you hope to use it in some future game? And do you think this will have a negative impact on the relationship between game studios and real voice actors? Todd answered, "We actually use such systems during development so we can play the game with voices, but there is no substitute for professional actors. They are a huge part of our development and are amazing partners in bringing these worlds to life." I am with Todd here. There is no substitute for real actors. Here's why. Even with machine learning and AI having made such huge leaps in the past couple of years, it still doesn't grasp the emotion of the moment. Will there be any robot companions in Starfield? Todd said yes. Kind of. You've repeatedly said tone is the first thing BGS prioritizes when designing a game. How do you pick a tone to build an entire game around? Are there conversations or even debates on what that tone should be? Also, how do you preserve that tone across so many different areas of development, especially the non-visual ones such as NPC dialogue, that can't really pull directly from your studio's excellent concept art? Todd answered, "Great question, and one we debate here often. Tone equals world. What place would you want to explore? Why? Who would you be? What would you do? How does that pique your curiosity? How is that curiosity rewarded? We like mixing places with elements that you feel comfortable with or can relate to, alongside the fantastical." Todd does speak about the tone of a game a lot. The fact that the first thing that they work on is the music helps to create that tone. Obviously, there are a lot more pieces to that overall puzzle, and I think Bethesda has proven to be able to really bring us into the game. You lightly touched in your interview yesterday that you realized the clear issue of gaps between games in your franchises and know it is a problem. What is your plan, if any, to reduce the massive gaps of time between games of your 3 franchises? Todd said, "Great question. We certainly understand that they do take a long time to get right. Ultimately, quality matters most to us, and we're careful with resources and priorities. Also, we're hiring, so..." That last bit was interesting to me because I think he was making note that Bethesda proper is working on growing its team. This could be in part due to the Microsoft deal and the fact that Bethesda is notorious for long time frames between games with any given franchise. How has the release of Cyberpunk 2077 influenced your team's philosophy towards releasing games? Todd said, "I can only speak to the issues we've had, such as Fallout 76. We let people down and were able to learn and be better from it. We're fortunate 3 years later to have 76 be one of our most played games, and it's thanks to the 11 million players who have made it an incredible community. It's made us much better developers in the end." I think this is the first time we have gotten a direct answer as to how many players Fallout 76 has. 11 million players is no small feat. Now, I have seen other larger YouTubers make light of that number, calling it inflated by free-to-play deals and whatnot. Since there is no concrete answer on that, I won't speculate like they have done. What I will say, 11 million players, whether inflated or not, is the solid number we have to work with, and as such, I would expect that most of the players are concurrent players. Does Starfield have any groundbreaking innovations that will set a high bar for the next generation of action RPGs, similar to what Skyrim has done this last decade? Todd answered, "We prefer to just show it, which should be next summer. We're happy with the advancements we've been able to make, some of which you can see in the trailer shot in-game." I agree with Todd here too. I would rather see it when it's ready to be shown rather than hear it be talked about. There's just something more that you get when you see it. Things tend to get lost in translation when it's just talked about. Did you know that the new Custom Worlds mode is much less popular than Nuclear Winter itself? Is Bethesda ready to bring Nuclear Winter back to the game and its players while it's still possible? Todd said, "We're pretty passionate about giving players tools to mod the games, and thus shifted our priorities to custom game worlds. More to come." Todd's answer here was very telling. In short order, Nuclear Winter is gone and will not be returning. Worlds is the new focus, and to that end, it is the first step toward making 76 moddable. I know some people already mod 76. As it is not supported, that in part is why some people have issues with the game. I don't want to get into that in this video though, so I will leave it there for another day. That was really all of the questions that had any sort of substance. Now I want to treat you all to the Skyrim musical score that was performed by the London Symphony Orchestra and also the score for Starfield. I encourage all of you to watch the full concert. Link is in the description below. That was incredible. I truly recommend watching or even just listening to the full concert. I loved every minute of it. Again, the link is in the description below. There's just one last bit to go over here. The Inside the Vault article released, and there was a bit of info worth covering. First, this weekend is both Gold Rush and Mystery Pick. So, go get that extra gold, and if you feel so inclined, pay the purveyor a visit. Also, the PTS is live with the Night of the Moth update. If you are on PC, I highly recommend testing it out. If you do, you will earn an exclusive pennant. Bethesda also released a long list of Fallout 76 stats, so check out the Inside the Vault article to see them all. I have that linked in the description below. Now that we have seen all that happened over the last few days, I think there is a lot of hope for the future of Bethesda games. I have to say that all of this was a joy to see and put together for all of you. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like, comment, and share. It greatly helps the channel, and I really appreciate all of you. As always, I am just glad you all stopped by, and I'll see you in the next one.